I wasn't going to make a video about this like whole thing because admittedly everybody was going to eventually make a video about it sooner and or later. But once I end up finding out some more information about it and nobody was talking about it, that's when I realized I can make a video about it. And if you don't know, there was this viral TikTok that went trending on Twitter about this girl who essentially refused to eat at a cheesecake factory, and this nice gentleman very much tried to handle the situation as best as possible, and very much he got a lot of support by it, but the girl did not, because she very much thought going to a cheesecake factory on the first day is like the worst thing in the world. Is essentially like that she thought that she was just going to eat at like an outback alleyway with like nothing but like cloths and like just rocks. So everybody was just mad at her for that exact reason, because she felt so like it's so entitled within like a first date that like it was just like unbelievable that the amount of just like main character syndrome came out from her. But everybody was more just talking about it, and people very much just kind of views it as like just another one of those instances where people just have the tendency to just record themselves like doing all these other things and believe that people are just going to be on their side immediately, when in reality most of the time it just never works. Like, even if you record yourself doing doing the worst thing ever, no one's going to be automatically on your side. In fact, you practically just incriminate yourself and make yourself look like worse when you just record everything and think that like everybody's just going to support you. And now we are actually seeing, at least on TikTok, that it actually was a stage skit. And I'm not even joking, by the way. It actually was an entirely staged skit from the get-go, because what it actually revealed, at least most of the clips that I'm going to show you, is that a lot of them, she was actually has a real name. The name that she was actually used in the video itself is not her actual real name. In fact, it's actually a different name, and she's actually a therapist. And they actually the couple actually went on a show with like another guy talking about the whole experience about it, and it would just seem kind of odd, because why would you immediately just go on the show after like this entire thing? Even in so like I don't think even any reasonable person would want to go like on a show when they had a public just like, hey, this date's not gonna work. Even for the first date, you couldn't even like get past like the restaurant and all that. Like, that's almost not even like there. Like, they did an entire interview on that, but they also found out that this person is because the therapist on the Instagram account is the exact same one as the other one, due to the exact same dress that she's wearing, and the fact that she actually bragged about that was actually all of a skit. There was even like leaked comments on Facebook, very much of her actually doing the skit and actually confessing to it, with the name Nikia Lowry. It's a skit done by a production company and a group of actors. It's my skit. I and my date in the video are both actors. I happen to be a therapist as well, so I used what I know to come up with how I acted in the skit. I also happen to be the co-host of a podcast with another therapist. She posted about it being a skit on her page, so that there may be where you and I are getting two therapists that came up with it. And not only will we be discussing the skit in our podcast, but also some of the reactions from it. Volatile behavior from many, and how emotional people will distort perception. Hurt people are always going to try and hurt people, and all the hurt people came out in full force with this. Now, I don't think even doing a skit is supposed to help move a conversation forward. Like, if you wanted to talk about like the perception of just so many of these things, there are better ways of like at least trying to do that. Or at least, make the conversation happen like within like a self-aware skit. Because this one, like this entire skit was like actually at least believable. I didn't even think for a second that it was like fake, or it could actually have been fake the entire time, because it was so realistic, and I thought it was just like another example of just people recording themselves and just not being self-aware enough to know that they're in the wrong. And it turns out they used that exact same like thing to their advantage, because now everybody is most bashing on her, and she's essentially getting what she wanted out of this entire time. And I really just don't really like when people just use these types of skits to more or less, like, at least push something to think there's talking about. Because even if you want to start the conversation out with something that can most be progressive in any sort of way, you're gonna lose your interest when you end up, like, putting it out there saying like, oh, this entire thing's like, a skip, but it was like meant to be that because it was like moving a conversation to something else also important, which I just don't I don't get. I don't understand. There's just better ways of, like, communicating that way in just much more better places than just, like, doing a skit and having people to be just angry all about it. And this even like, I found this in through some other, like, TikTokers who ended up getting ahead of this entirely, and they were pretty much like they were like pretty much upset about it because this was like just like, bringing just a lot of, like, black women down, and they were just more or less insulted by it. They just felt like this is like another move to just, like, put them down even lower, which, I, depending on who you ask, like, was this intentional or was it not, I can't tell you. I have no say in that specific matter. All I just am interested in is that this was entirely fake. This continues on to more saying, what I think about it is that it worked. It highlights so much about people since we created skits, because every video associated with the first one were filmed on the same day, but because people are so gullible, they believe anything. It was created to spark discussions around dating, and it is definitely doing that. As a therapist, I see and hear so many dating stories. I am also an actress who has too. There's no continuation in the message, even as far as I was able to at least understand. But still, the point's still proven again. There's still better ways of at least, exploring and having this topic of discussion with it. And, like, honestly, it would have been a little bit more better if you had just talked about it like anybody else would, and not just do a skit. Like, even if the skit was just like one of those, like self-aware skits where, like, it's obvious from, like, a certain point, it still would have done completely well. Like, it would have gotten the point across, like, entirely. Like, it would still have worked back, like, on then. But just to make it so that it's, like, all fake, to just, have, like, rage bait. Like, yeah, rage bait almost works almost every time because nobody exactly, takes 2 seconds to think, like, something could be fake. They just assume it's automatically the truth. And people very much had at least some other questions about it in the same in the same comment section. I had a first day at the Cheesecake Factory, then offered to buy me a laptop. Sprinkle, sprinkle. I like the Cheesecake Factory soup and salad and the cheesecake, so I could have made it work. Regardless, over 20 years ago, my dear husband took me to McDonald's for our first day, and 20 years later, he has taken me around the world. I say all that to say how you start isn't necessarily how you will finish. She caused her own problems. He thought she was worth a better restaurant. He made reservations at a better spot. He was over an hour late, and that is why they ended up there. She also gave free meal vibes. Didn't even seem that into the guy, just kind of there for the experience. Which, at least in this comment section, was just like to believe that, she was doing all of this in just for the terms of the skit and just to do, essentially have her conversation be at the focal front. Which, as many times as we could say, people almost fell for it, and, she essentially is getting what she wanted. But you said the type of, like, the rage bait that most that you can just see anywhere on the internet, this one seemed to be the most believable out of everything, because you could not tell if it was actually, like, real. Like, the whole situation of itself at least seemed at least a little bit realistic, because there are, like, so many people that do just film themselves and just think they are, like, literally, like, in the right almost all the time. But as of now, just seeing, sorry, but just as of now, like, seeing the skit and just seeing it again and again, it actually does at least show some signs that it was entirely, like, fake. Like, maybe the boyfriend of just, like, him, like, going back to the car and very much still staring at the camera and, like, not telling her to, like, shut off. I guess that also would constitute as just, like, it being fake. Though, at least at the time when I very much thought it was real, I thought it was just, like, a thing where he couldn't do anything, and he was going to get viral if he did like just took the phone away from her. So I guess so, but like it really did like sell on the belief that she was the worst person to go on a date with, and it seemingly is like working as of now, since almost there hasn't been anything to say that there was like fakeage about the story entirely. So as far as we very much know, she very much almost got what she wanted, but people are starting to figure out and put the pieces together that the skit was just entirely fake. Like that's just almost the blatant message of this entire video, that this thing very much got to be fake. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. I wasn't ever going to make this video. Like I know I said in the beginning, I never was going to make this video since everybody was already going to be talking about it at some point or one another. But I very much found out that it was fake, in through just searching up her name, because I wanted to see like other people's at least takes on the whole thing, and to soon find out that it was fake with the same Instagram, the same dress, and being shown onto an interview. I think that was pretty much enough to say that yeah, she faked almost everything on the internet. Even the guy was also complicit into the whole thing. So yeah, I thought that would just be an entertaining thing, a little bit of piece of information, because it was brand new, and I thought it'd be just nice to talk about it, and not just mention the story itself, because I'm pretty sure everybody already knows that story. And yeah, that's about it. Bye bye.